As investors and developers, we see the world differently. This podcast uncovers the untold truths of what it really takes to become a multi-million dollar residential developer. I'm Nathan Battershall. Let's get to work. Welcome to the latest episode of the Residential Developer Podcast. My name's Nathan Battershall. I'm the host, and I'm really privileged today to have Mulisa from Mosros Property with us today. Welcome, Mulisa.
Welcome. How are you, mate?
Good. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege.
Yeah. And look, to give you a bit of an idea, Mulisa is an absolute weapon when it comes to finding off-market development sites. Mulisa and I actually met a couple of years ago when he found me a beautiful development site in Dubbo. I actually grew up in a town half an hour west of Dubbo. Always dreamed of doing a development back in my hometown. For all those teachers that sort of told me I was a no-hoper and I'd do nothing with my life, Mulisa's helped me live that dream to do a development back in my hometown. So that's how we met, and we just kicked it off and realised that there's a lot of great synergy just around our mindsets, what we do, and even our passion for property, our passion for finding sites and developing sites, and it's just led us on this great journey. So I thought it's vital in our first month of our podcast to get Mulisa onto the show. Melissa's going to be coming on regularly. We're going to be talking about development sites, finding sites, but we're also going to be looking at a segment called the Property Development Shark Tank. We're going to look at a development that either is going ahead or isn't going ahead, and some of the reasons why. And so, just a little bit, mate. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you're from, your background, and what led you to get into property consultancy?
Okay, so let me give you a quick little rundown. So I was born in Zimbabwe. So came to Australia in 2005. My parents are in the medical field. Mother's a nurse, father's a dentist, and so on. So I was kind of into the academical world a lot. I was doing a lot of my schooling. But when I got older, I got into the construction side. Started working for builders, labouring, and where I'd done most of my work was building swimming pools. Yeah. So I've always been into the property field. I've always been attracted to the property side. As when we were young in Africa as well, the house we lived in, we built it by hand. So I watched that happen. Yeah. So I watched us lay every brick on the house, building it. So there was always a fascination on building property. I've always had a fascination on that. But when it comes to what I do now, so it came across when I was dealing with call option agreements.
Yes.
So I came across a couple of people that helped me out with being able to secure properties under call option agreements and passing them on to the market, which I started doing that by myself, and that's where we met. We met while I was doing that.
Yeah.
And then after that, I started helping clients. So helping other people find properties to develop, people that I haven't had time, especially as the market got a little bit tougher. Construction prices went very high, which means the properties that could be developed were much less.
Yes.
Much less. So you couldn't just come across these properties on the market. So it's a lot harder now. You have to be looking for them. So which is the value we bring to the market, which is what I've been doing, and I love it.
Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting, like in the property market, like obviously all of our listeners are investors, developers, builder developers, or people that are aspiring to do that. Like we obviously see different people that are securing sites. So you've obviously we hear a lot about real estate agents and obviously buyers agents. We hear a lot about buyers agents, but what's the difference between what you do, which is property consultancy, I believe? What's the difference between property consultancy versus, let's say, traditional buyers agents or real estate
Okay,
agents?
so there's a big difference, a very, very big difference. So we're very specialized in what we do. So buyers agents, they kind of go out into the market and so on and grab things for you, right? But we are very specialized. We've got specialized softwares, we've got specialized networks, and so on. And we're very specific on what we do. And we have a lot of knowledge on how to structure the deals, on what to look for, the mistakes you're going to make. So we're very, very, very specialized. It's something that's very niche. Yes. It's completely different from the agent side. So really securing the property is a smaller small side of it, but it's really finding and working the deal, working the structure of it, making sure that all parties involved are going to benefit. So
Yes.
buying a property is easy. You can use a buyer's agents and buy something, but buying a very profitable development that's going to work is hard.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard.
And look, firsthand, I've experienced that. You know, I did that project personally, but you've helped so many of my clients now in
Yep.
terms of securing sites off market. And what are some of the things that you do that you've just mentioned that it's very specialised? And I guess firsthand, I've been able to experience the fact that you help with the planning side of things, look into the constraints, the planning, you know, even the feasibilities. I've been amazed at actually like that you go to that level of depth for a client to make sure you're not bringing them a dud site.
Yes. Yes.
Do you want to just speak into that a little bit, just
Yes.
around some of the things you are looking into?
Okay, so one thing we want to make sure is also where the property sits, the exact area, which is it's easy to say you want to develop in this particular area, but you need to make sure that the numbers work. So numbers could differ within a street.
Yes.
So it could be in the same suburb, but they could differ within a street. So we bring that knowledge. So it takes a lot of research to actually find out what works in what particular place. So that's number one. And then first of all, we need to find out all the constraints. So what in this particular council, what constraints are going to go against us? Can we do this property CDC? Do we have to go via the DA route? So there's a lot of digging in there. And also when it comes to the numbers, there's a lot of digging. And we have to be very conservative with the numbers, make sure they will work even with the worst case scenario.
Yes.
Right. So there's that comes into it. Obviously the planning side that comes into it on the due diligence side. And also the structuring of the deal. I use call options a lot, I like the lengthier settlements and so on. So being able to see a deal and sort of structure it in a way that's going to benefit us, make sure we're not paying a lot of holding cost, and the vendor themselves are getting a little bit of time to get their affairs in order. So all these little things put together, make the perfect deal. So it's a whole package.
Yep.
Yes.
And I guess the holding cost, that's one of the killers obviously now is with the interest rates. And obviously most investors and developers, you want to ensure that you do have that time. Do you find from a traditional, going to a real estate agent, trying to secure a site, it's really hard to get terms, it's really hard to get like a delayed settlement. Do you find this strategy that you adopt as a property consultant, do you find you can generally get better terms for clients, investors and developers and people wanting to do projects?
Yeah, so what I find with this strategy we use, you will be getting lengthier settlements. That's just a given. So
what are some of the why is it that vendors are open to that?
Okay. So the main reason is most of these people were not in the market to sell in the first place.
Yes.
So that's one other thing. So they were not already in the process of selling, but they might have thought of selling, but they were not in the process of selling. So they didn't have any settlement period they had in mind. They didn't have any of that. So that means they usually need a bit of time to find a place to live, to change work and so on. They need a bit of time. And most of the people we deal with are usually elderly, right? So they need a bit of help. They need you to hold their hands through the process. And you just need to make it very easy for them. So we give them a very easy process. And one other thing I just want to state. So most people don't even have the funds to sell a property. Most properties need to be renovated, painted, all that type of stuff before they go on the market. So most properties are not market ready, and legal fees and so on you put in place. Most people can't afford to sell. So and one of the things, people don't want open houses. Yeah. They don't want strangers coming to the house all weekend and so on. Yeah. So they really,
I feel like COVID probably made that even because we didn't see people for so long. A lot lot of people now don't want to see people.
Yes.
Yes. They don't want strangers walking in their house.
So I guess I made it easier for us. So what we do, it really just gives them an easy comfortable way to sell. So we carry that burden. I know we purchase a lot of property, so we get used to it.
Yes.
But purchasing or selling a property is very stressful.
Yeah.
To a lot of people, it's very, very stressful. Just even hearing the words contract
Yes.
is overwhelming for a lot of people, right? So
true.
our job is to carry that, to make sure that they benefit as well as we do. So we just have to make sure all parties involved benefit. But yeah, lengthier settlements with what we do is you will get them with ease, only because they fit the vendor's needs all the time.
Yes.
They always do.
Yeah.
And they don't have to pay any agents' fees. They're happy. They're very. It's just if for me, if I was selling, I'd be very happy to sell this way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And as long as they're getting a fair price.
Yes.
And some people just don't want that stress, do they?
No.
This day and
no,
age.
No.
No, that's brilliant. And what are some of the in terms of the types of projects? Like, are you seeing any trends, or are you seeing any particular, like in terms of smaller development-based projects? What's the most common project type you're seeing? A lot of investors and developers wanting to do.
Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of CDC duplexes.
Yeah.
So a lot of CDC duplexes, I think they're trending a lot in particular areas. So Northern Wollongong seems to be trending a lot. The Shire is doing very well. So the CDCs seem to be booming. I think that's the place to be in at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm enjoying them.
Yeah, well, I guess again it comes down to the holding cost, doesn't it? You know, the speed factor that
Yes.
you're not sitting in council for 12 months.
Yes.
You can go through the fast track approval method.
Yeah. So you can turn over much quicker. You can do the projects much faster.
Yeah. And are you, in terms of, obviously you mentioned you work with the client on a feasibility, and one thing I do love about what you do is you are quite conservative. Like, you don't pump up numbers, and we've all been there where, like, a particular real estate agent might have given us the best case scenario if everything went to plan.
Yeah.
But we even know in this current market that we are in that it's a tricky time.
Yes.
Some areas you're getting really good pricing, and then, like you said, 2 streets over, someone's had to drop their pants or drop their price by, 100K or 200 or 300 or even more on what they anticipated. But do you find sometimes one of the biggest problems can be that investors and developers, they run their feasibility off the best case scenario of everything, and then they end up stressed during the actual project because they haven't allowed margin, contingency and fat in their development? Like, what are your thoughts? What have you seen?
I think that happens probably 80% of the time or more. So most people, this is the thing, in the industry we're in, nothing ever goes to plan, and you learn by mistake. Somehow you learn, right? So nothing will ever go to plan. You really need to allow room for these things to happen. And I think as it's been tough to get development sites and so on, some people get very desperate and they try to push it to make it work. So the property might not be feasible, but people will play with the numbers to make it feasible, but they're just tricking themselves. So you really sometimes you have to be patient, or really you take your time with the numbers. Don't try to push thing and get yourself into something that doesn't work, because a lot of people seem to be doing this a lot.
Yeah. And you hit a really important topic there, and we spoke about this previously on a previous podcast with Ellie on town planning, and that people can get impatient because they're not finding a site, or they're they're not playing the long game, rather than being patient and saying no to 9 okay properties. You want to say yes to one really, really good property. Would that be right? Like, is that your encouragement?
Yes. So what happened, this has just happened this last couple of weeks. So I had a client only just got him. So he had approval for a good amount of money, and we signed him on. We're helping him out, but he was impatient. So I didn't know he had done this. He hadn't told me, but he had went and purchased a property at the same time, right? He's purchased this property, and now he calls me and he goes, "Man, I purchased this property a couple of weeks ago. I thought the numbers worked, and they don't work. And now he's trying to sell it."
Yep.
Yeah. So and I remember telling him about it. Yeah, I remember telling him he just needs to be a little bit patient. But people seem to do this a lot. You know, when you start getting desperate, you're not thinking logically. So in this industry, when you make mistakes, you're going to pay for them heavily.
Yeah.
So you really need to keep in mind that what you're doing it can go wrong.
Yeah.
It can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where lots of contingency and lots of, really just modeling, worst case scenarios and
Yes.
modeling the fact that, hey, just because an agent tells you that you can get 2.7 million in resale doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case, does it?
Yes. One other thing, I think people get very emotionally attached to a deal or a
Yes.
property.
Yes.
I think one other thing, you can never get attached to a deal. You can't. Once you get attached to a particular idea, it's hard to let go of it, right? So there might be things that don't work on it, but you're gonna try to force them to make it work. So never find yourself fighting on forcing something to work.
Yeah.
Right. Because at the end of it, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's black and white.
Yeah.
It's
So
not,
essentially, you got to be willing to walk away
you have to.
from a deal that, yes, is in a nice location. Yes, it's close to the beach or it's close to things. There could be great things going for it, but the numbers just don't stack up.
Yes, even sometimes they don't stack up by a small amount, right? But that amount can become big. So some people will overlook it and think it shouldn't be a problem. But you really need to take care. As I said, when you calculate these numbers, you don't want to work on the best case scenario all the time, right? Because nothing goes to plan.
No,
Yeah, nothing ever goes to plan.
no,
Yeah.
no, that's right. That's right. And I think it's, especially the last couple of years in this particular market, I think it's never been more important to actually really drill down on your numbers and know your numbers and have lots of contingency opportunities,
Yes.
like at a planning level, at a construction level, but even at a time level. Like I think a lot of people, they put contingency into their costs, but sometimes I think people don't put contingency into their time.
Yes.
But time can then equal cost too, because you've got additional interest if the build time blows out, or people. I'm amazed when people say, "Oh, we'll build the duplex in 6 months." Well, maybe, but I've seen a lot more duplexes taking a lot longer than 6 months the last couple of years.
In a perfect world, 6 months it'll be 6 months, but that's in a perfect world, which rarely happens.
That's it, and it's not just the build time. Then you see certain product just takes time to move as well.
Yes.
Like, it's risky to allow that only a month to sell the product. Some products are taking a lot longer to sell, or people get pressured. Then they've got to drop their prices so significantly because they haven't factored in that additional time for marketing and selling the product if their strategy is to sell.
Yes. So that's where it comes to the idea that you really need to know your market, right? You need to know your end product. You need to know your market. You really need to know. You need to work from the product backwards, right? Because some products don't fit in a particular area, right? So let's say you can have properties that are close to the beach. People put expensive plunge pools in them. You just need to know what you can put in a particular area. Because some areas a plunge pool could make the price higher. Some areas it doesn't do absolutely nothing to the price.
Yeah, so you spend another 100K
Exactly.
for no gain.
Yes. Some areas you need to have a 4-bedroom. Some areas you can get away with a 3-bedroom.
Yeah.
Some areas you need a double story.
Yeah.
Some areas you only need 1 story. So you just need to know your market. You need to know where you are. So you need to work from that side. You can't put the same product in Sydney, put it in North Wollongong, put it in Adelaide. You have to adapt to the area. Yeah. So you just let the area detect what you put in there.
Yep. And in terms of, and I love that you were talking about, obviously a lot of this, what we're talking about is risk and managing risk.
Mm-hmm.
Like what are some of the, how do you essentially assess the risk on off-market deals? Like what are you looking at from a risk perspective when you're assessing an off-market deal for a client?
Okay, so the main thing on when it comes to risk management on the property, the main thing is how we're going to structure the deal anyway on the contract, how much time, and if it's a very risky deal where, let's say, if we're working on something as a subdivision, now that's risk heavy. The bigger the subdivision, the more risk heavy it is. Is there's a lot of biodiversity we need to account for and so on, right? So on those particular properties, you would need lengthy settlements, and not just lengthy settlements. They would need to be under call option agreements.
Yes.
Only because you're going to need to spend a lot of your money.
So just to cut you off for a second, so you mentioned call option.
Yeah.
Some people know what that means. What's a call option? Even just for our listeners who may not be aware of a call option, what that is. What's a call option?
So
what are the advantages of a call option?
So in layman's term, a call option is a document that gives you particular control of a property for a particular period. So it gives you the option to purchase a property in a particular period without exchanging into contract. Yes. So you're legally not liable to go ahead. So you can still back out of the call option, but it gives you that particular period. Yeah. So it just makes all it does it makes sure that the vendor will not sell the property to John next door and so on while you've got control and doing your research, getting your DA and so on. So that's what the call option is for. It gets rid of the holding cost. You don't need to pay a deposit at the time, so you don't have all this dead money just sitting there. And it's very necessary on properties such as subdivisions as such, because subdivisions, you might think it works until you find one little thing wrong, right?
Which can just kill the whole deal.
So there's a lot that goes into it. So call option on subdivisions is highly necessary.
And I guess that's a huge form of being able to de-risk the project, because like you said, if you get a call option on a property, you can then carry out those reports. Yes, you need to spend some money, but the beauty is then if there's such a constraint or a concern or an issue, you can pull out of the project. You're not left with having to purchase that property. Am I right?
Yes. So you can let go of the property and you will lose the money you've put in, but at least you don't have to go and purchase a property. So really, as I said, put in layman's term one more time, it just gives us enough time to find out if the property is what we think it is. So to put it that way, it just gives us that enough time to find out if it is what we think it is. But when it comes to, let's say, duplexes and so on, the risk is very minimal, right? So it's very, very minimal. Everything is in black and white. There's not many things involved in duplexes, which is why I love them. They're very easy to do. If you know what you're doing, there's less things that can go wrong. As I said, when things can go wrong, they usually do. So there are very minimal things that can go wrong, and you can turn them over fairly quick.
And I guess, look, in this industry of securing property, buying property, selling property, every consultant has their place. And look, for me, there's a really important place for real estate agents. There's a really important place for a buyer's agent. But I think there's a very important place for a property consultant too. And I think in terms of being able to really help de-risk a project is valuable. And I know one thing I'm really big on is talking about building your dream team. Is having your dream team of consultants and people that you can trust in and rely on. Like in terms of what you do day in, day out as a property consultant, looking for off-market sites for investors and developers. So you've obviously had to build a dream team of different consultants that you're leaning on to help you with due diligence, like whether it be architects, planners, arborists, various things. Do you find that's one of the advantages, or how have you found that's been helpful?
So it's part of it. You need to have your acquaintances, your team, your people you work with. So it's a networking web, right? So I guess one of the things that you meet a lot of people through this road, right? You meet a lot of people, you work with a lot of people, so you end up with your own little network, and everyone feeds off each other. We all help each other. When you're doing this by yourself, you don't have that. So if you're to just go out there, starting to do this by yourself, you don't have that. As when I was starting to do this, I didn't have that. I made a lot of mistakes. As I said, the first 8 months of me doing this, I didn't make any money. I was losing money, didn't make any money, couldn't find deals. But once I had that network, it was much easier. And I like to think that at this time now, I'm just getting paid for all those mistakes I made all those years, right?
Yeah.
So what is I'm helping people not make the mistakes that I made, which are inevitable if you're going to do this by yourself.
Yeah.
What we do here is something you really you only learn by doing it. You can't read a book and learn how to do this. You can only learn by going through it. No one can tell you what to do and you figure it out.
Yeah.
You literally just have to do it, and you learn by doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it'd be interesting just to get your thoughts. Like you're obviously so am I correct? You're dealing directly with vendors, with the landowner.
Yep. Directly with the vendors. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you'd be having to deal with different personalities, different mentalities. Some people would be happy to talk to you, others not so happy. Like how do you, in terms of you as a consultant, how do you do that type of negotiation? How do you do that type of conversation? Because I'm sure there's some days you get 10 abusive calls in a row, or there's days where you're on a bit of a roll. Like what are some of your tips, or what is some of your thoughts around how you've learned to be? You're obviously good in your negotiation skills and your interpersonal people skills to be able to sort of meet people where they're at.
Yeah. I think you have to be very adaptive. And one other thing, I think a lot of this is not something you can sort of just learn. I think some of it you're born with it, right? But you really have to. One thing, you have to be adaptive and realize that this is some people are very. You deal with different people. Some people are very hostile, right?
Yeah.
But most of the times you've called them, so you just need to keep in mind that you're the one called them. So everyone can react whichever way.
Yeah.
But and they have the right to react whichever way. You can't take anything personal.
Yeah.
You know, when I did first start, sometimes you're not used to it, right? So sometimes you end up at the end of the day pissed off, right? You're calling people and tell you to go away, to F off, this and that, you know. So, but you get used to it because it's just part of the game. So let's say I talk to 40, 50 people to get one deal, right?
Yes.
So I don't look at it as that those 49 people were a waste. Yeah. What I look at is, let's say if I made $30,000 from after calling 30 people and get one, what it means is I made $1,000 for each call.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good way.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
which makes every call valuable. Then.
Exactly. So each and every call is valuable no matter what. So just don't get too emotionally attached. Yeah. Just go through the motions. Yeah. And don't worry about the outcome as such, right? You just do what you have to do. If you get too worried about the outcome, as you said, sometimes you have good days when you're on a roll. Sometimes you have a week where it's not going well. You just don't get too used to the outcome, because when you have those bad weeks, you might think, but you just have to just keep going through the motions and just do your best. Yeah. But as I say, you just have to be very adaptive, because you have to know which person you can joke around with. Some people are more serious, but you sort of have to just take control of the conversation, and that's what you have to do.
And I think it's great. Like I've done different courses over the years about how to get off market sites and do that sort of thing. But I guess a lot of our listeners are probably in the same boat as myself. Like we're busy in our day to day. A lot of people are very successful at what they do. A lot of developers are great at what they do, or a lot of people are developing as a side hustle. So they're very busy with their career or their job or their business. And, I've seen a lot of people just waste a lot of time trying to do too much themselves, like in terms of getting an off-market site, negotiating. Some people have that ability, but I guess even me, I learned firsthand. I tried to get sites myself and I just didn't have a lot of success. But I then realised, hey, I'm good at what I do. There's so much value in being able to engage and work with someone who is unbelievable in their field. And I guess that's where there's such a value in property consultancy, I think, when it comes to securing a development site.
Yes.
And leaning in that. Do you find that sometimes where you've had people that have tried it themselves and they just didn't have a lot of success, or the pennies finally dropped that they realise, hey, if I spend all my time doing this, I'm not that good at it.
Yeah.
and I'm gonna neglect what I am good at. So therefore, I can't even fund the project I wanted to do anyway.
Yes.
Have you found that sometimes
Yes.
people have had to go full circle?
Yes, and I understand how people will feel that way because when you first start, it is hard. As I said, some of these things, you have a talent you're born with, right?
Yeah.
So you're best off using that. And a lot of clients we work with, some of them started trying to find their own deals. Everyone is trying to find their own deals, on market, off market. It's a hard game to play, right? But we're just very good at what we do.
Yeah.
And when you work with the client once, they usually just stay with you because there's no reason not to work with us after you worked with us, right?
Yeah.
So it makes it much easier. And people might say, other people will be going, oh, but we're paying you a fee to find the property. At the end of the road, you're going to be making more money.
Yeah.
You're making a lot more money, right? Only because we're good at what we do. We have the ability to get these properties that are highly profitable,
Yep.
and we can do it with ease.
Yes.
Right. So we're doing it with ease. It's not stressful on your side or our side, which means you can start turning over properties much quicker, developments much quicker.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not an easy game. A lot of people try and it doesn't work out for them. It's not an easy game.
Yeah.
You have to be good at what you do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And look, obviously every developer's different too, and you've obviously got a diverse group of clients and people that you work with that do various different types of projects. Like, what are some, for a developer wanting to do a project, what are some key metrics or some key things that you need from them to be able to really essentially go out and scout properties and go and source out a development site? What are some key things that you need to know?
Okay, for me, it's quite pretty simple, right? So I need to know what the end product, what are they trying to do, so I can work it from back there. So if they might want to do a duplex with a double garage and so on, and we can't go the CDC route, so I need to know exactly what are you trying to put there, what are you trying to develop,
Yeah.
what's your budget.
Yep.
The main thing I need to know your maximum budget.
And this is everything, like land plus all costs associated.
Yeah, all costs associated. At least we need to know the maximum budget for the purchase of the land.
Yes.
That's the very minimum. We need to know the maximum budget, and we need to know the area, right?
Yeah.
Because and one thing, if they could give us an area that doesn't work,
Yeah.
so if they need to be also flexible on the area side.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not comfortable with the place, we can't take the job on, right?
Yeah.
So
And one thing I've noticed with you, just jumping in, is that you're one of those consultants I find it's brilliant that if it's not hitting a good return, you'll tell them point blank. You won't. You're not interested in just getting like charging a fee to find them a site that doesn't work. Like
No.
your idea is to have clients you've got for life
exactly.
and watch them succeed.
Exactly. So the more money they make, the more we make. The more deals they do, the more deals we get.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's correlated. So it's like you're forming business partnerships.
Yeah.
Right. But we have to fit. We both have to fit. So I can't let you take on a project that's going to be detrimental to you because that's not help to me and that's not help to you. So our job, and I'd like to be proud of what I'm doing. Right.
Yeah.
And I'd like to be part of developments that are beautiful, be part of beautiful teams. I just like to be part of beautiful, great things.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
Yep.
And look, it'd be good to chat about obviously this part of the show now where I want to talk about a development fish tank. This particular project, so it's in Evans Street in Wollongong.
Yep.
So it's right near the golf course, Wollongong Golf Course. It's right near the main Wollongong beach. It's right in the heart of Wollongong. It's a great spot, but it's traditionally like an area where we haven't seen a lot of duplexes. So there was obviously some challenges in this site, but do you want to just give some insights into this particular project?
Yeah. So this is an area where people don't really sell. It's a very exclusive area. So people don't sell, and there's not many duplexes there. As I said, people do not sell. Last time we seen duplexes there was a couple years ago, and they were selling for close to $2 million.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So properties there is very exclusive. It's very expensive. Right next to the golf course, next to the water, there's the shopping centers, gyms, coffee shops right next to there. It's as good as a place can get. Really, you cannot get much better than that.
Yeah.
And the client we got this property for is going to be his first deal. So he's coming into the industry with something beautiful. So I was very happy that it went to him because he's going to have a good experience with this.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very profitable, and it's going to be much profitable than we think it is.
Yeah. And really, for someone's first deal, I think any deal, but especially for someone's first deal, you nailed that topic before. You said, we don't want people inflating numbers or having to do things unnecessary to make a number work. But like for a first time deal, you want to set someone up for success.
Yes.
Don't you?
Yes. And to the point that when we were doing the feasibility of this deal, we went to the point where let's try to make it look as bad as we can.
Yeah, that's it. And that's a good deal when you got to...
yeah, exactly. Usually you're going to make it look good. We try to make this deal look as bad as we can.
Yeah.
And we couldn't.
Yeah.
As bad as we could make it look, it was about 20% profit investment. We couldn't make it look bad, even if we couldn't try.
That's it. And even at a conservative level, it's sort of sitting at about 26%, isn't
Yeah,
it? 25, 26. And when we say conservative, we're
Super
talking
conservative.
We're talking like, there's a townhouse nearby that sold for 2.1. So we've got, and it's only a 3-bedder, and it's a townhouse.
It's a townhouse.
And we've allowed 2.2.
Yes.
But what about terms? Let's talk about terms.
On terms of this one ended up as a 10-month settlement. So this one came to a 10-month settlement, 5% deposit, gives him enough time to get his DA, get everything in place, especially as it's his first development.
Yep.
You want to make sure that he's very comfortable and everything goes smooth. And Nathan's taking care of him. We've done a great job with him. He's very impressed, right? So, and one thing I'll say, you're a good operator. You're great at what you do.
Yeah.
I think you're one of the best at what you do. That's the truth. You're very great at what you're very caring.
Yeah.
You look after these people. You hold their hands. You go through them with everything. You're very honest too, right? You're very honest. You're straightforward. You're straightforward.
You sort of got to be, don't you?
Yes, you're very straightforward with what you do. So when people are in your hands, they're in the right hands. They don't need to worry whatsoever. So as I said, with this, another special thing about this deal. So we end up getting the property next door as well.
Yeah, true.
So the next door neighbor seen this property sell, and the next door neighbor said, "I want to come to the party as well."
Yeah.
So we end up getting that property next door to another client as well, who's ecstatic.
Yeah.
And the numbers on these properties are just unheard of.
Yeah.
They're unheard of.
Yeah, that's it. And look, it's like anything. Obviously, we're talking about a project here that was really successful. It obviously hasn't started yet, but it's just an idea around a development fish tank of why we went ahead with this particular project. Obviously, you can see there, obviously, incredible terms. So 10 months that gives us time to execute the DA, so get the plans, consultants. It also then gives us time to get the DA into council. Ideally, get the DA approved prior to having to exchange. But it just time's so valuable. Like people forget about how valuable time is, and it's very hard to get an on-market site with those sort of terms.
Yeah, on market, it's hard to get those terms, especially with agents involved as well. They want to get paid much quicker.
Yeah.
So it really, everyone else wants the property to settle the next day besides you.
Yes.
They would rather it settles the next day, but you're trying to get it to settle in 12 months.
Yes.
The vendors want it that next day. The agent wants to get paid next day.
Yeah.
So it's much more difficult. The only way really I see going forward where you can get such great deals, you have to be out there looking for them. They can't be on the market. Yeah. And one other thing I want to stress to people, people need to understand that if a property is on the market, if you ever see a property on realestate.com.au or whatsoever, that's the last road.
Yeah.
It's already went through multiple hands.
Yes.
Right? So you're not the first, even when you see it, you go post it an hour ago. Nah, you're not the first person to see it.
Yeah.
It's already went through a lot of people that have said no to it. So that's just the last step. So if you on market, it's very hard to find something that really works. And if it does work, the numbers won't be as great as people think they are. But as I said, there's a lot of mom and dad developers that are happy to take those lower numbers, but that's not for us. We're here to run a business with ongoing clientele, and we need to have this super profitable.
Yeah. That's right. It's really got to be profitable. There's got to be, like you said, de-risking, taking the risk out of the project. ideally trying to reduce holding costs, so interest rates, and even in this one, like you said, you're able to negotiate, able to get a 5% deposit as opposed to the usual 10. So
Yep.
straight away, there's less cash output at the start,
Yep.
which can then be put into executing the DA.
Yes.
But even this site, like, it didn't come without its challenges either, did it? So like
No.
this particular part of this particular area had to do a lot of due diligence just around, especially the flood controls,
Yes.
because it's a flood prone area. So we had to really deal with some good consultants from the flood constraint side of
Yes.
things, and that's the value, isn't it, of getting good consultants and being able to really value engineer and de-risk and a project prior to purchasing it.
Yes. See, if you didn't have good consultants, they would have probably seen that flood zone and ran away,
Yeah.
not knowing that this is nothing.
Yeah,
You know, so you really you have to have a great team, great people around you. And when you find great people around you, you stick with them because
Yeah.
they're very hard to find. They're far from many.
that's it. And I think even another thing I loved about this particular project, and we're talking about this as a live project to help investors and developers just to look at different strategies out there. Like, one thing I loved, and I saw during COVID when properties were when we were booming, we'd be doing due diligence for a client, but you had to be so quick. Like, you can't often, like flood controls or bushfire controls, different things we're looking at. It can sometimes take a matter of days to investigate things. But when the boom was happening, if you weren't making an offer within an hour
was
or 2
gone.
hours, it was gone. Whereas the beauty of this strategy is you've got time. So if it takes 2 weeks or it takes a week or it takes 3-4 days, you've got that time because you're not competing against anyone else.
Yes.
That's a huge advantage,
Yes.
isn't it?
That's one other thing. So I don't like having to compete with other people on a particular deal. And I know a lot of buyers don't.
Yes.
A lot of buyers don't, and because before I started doing it the consultancy way, I used to get the deals and pass them on to the market.
Yeah.
And a lot of developers I used to deal with, if they knew someone else was looking at it, they didn't want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And now I know why.
Yeah.
So when you try to buy a property, there's someone else offering crazy numbers, and you're putting energy to it, getting consultants to look at it. You end up sick of doing it, right? So now with the way we do it, it's just us and the vendor.
Yeah.
There's no one else involved.
Yeah.
It's just us and the vendor, and we can work it out without someone else pitching in their mind.
Yeah.
Real estate agents inflating numbers that don't exist.
Yep.
So it's just much more efficient, and you're dealing with the horse. It's straight to the point.
Yeah. And I love that. And even this particular mutual client, I know they'd come to me initially very discouraged because they just kept missing out on sites. I'd even been looking at some sites for them, checking contracts, going through contracts. You know, people were offering too much, and you know there was people that might have been running at smaller margins and were able to offer less, and so they were very discouraged and wondering if it was at all possible for them to even get a site where the numbers stacked up.
Yes.
And so it was so exciting to be able to finally get this deal, and I think it only took like 2.5 months, if that.
Oh no, it only took less than it was less than a month. This one,
There
It
you
was
go.
less than a month.
And then
It's a couple weeks.
so it was such an encouraging thing, and so it, like, just for numbers' sake, and we're talking about a real live site here. So it's on Evans Street in Wollongong. This one we're talking like 20%. 26, 27% conservative.
Yeah.
So potentially, if everything went 100%
40s.
plan, we're talking like 40%,
Yes.
41%.
Yeah.
Now that's best case. We don't deal in that realm though. We're talking we deal in a conservative realm, because we want, even if everything goes bad and things don't go well, this one here is going to hit well and truly above that 20% threshold that people want.
Yeah, this one's beautiful. I'm quite excited to see what comes from it. Only because we already know the numbers work, but we don't know how good they will be.
Yes.
So I'm just excited to see how good they will be at the end. I'm very excited to see.
And just jumping in, even a reason why we went that conservative number boost, because we didn't have a huge amount of comparables, did we? Like
No.
4 duplexes in that area.
No, there's barely any comparables, right? So you really had to do a lot of research. We had to do a lot of research. But one other thing I'll state, so when you do this a lot, you end up very good at seeing value. You can sort of spot value from a mile away. You can sort of see what other people don't see, only because you're doing this day in, day out.
Yeah.
And I understand, for me, it feels like common sense, right? Only because sometimes I don't realize that it's not common sense.
Yeah.
It's only because I just do it every day, every day, every day. So you get to a point where you can see the value, what something might cost. So as soon as I seen this site, I knew what was there. I knew what was there, and it was something beautiful.
Yeah.
We had to get it.
Oh, it was a cracking deal.
Yeah, we had to get it.
It's a cracking deal, and it's and our hope is it will very, very much set up our client for a successful journey of doing developments.
That one will.
What sort of net profit we talking on that one? Just conservative.
Conservative, I believe it was around 900,000. So,
and that's with GST.
Yeah.
That's with GST factored in. Isn't
yes,
it?
yes. That was a beautiful.
Just for a duplex.
Yeah, for a quick drippy.
Yeah, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So, all right, so that's our development fish tank. Look, in regards to Mosros Property, where can people find you? And obviously, we'll put in the website on the show notes. But how do people best find Mosros Property?
Our website, mosrosproperty.com.au. Best way is to email info@mosrosproperty.com.au or mulisa@mosrosproperty.com.au, and just give me a call on 0402048022, and just shoot us a call or text, and we'll see if we can help you out.
Wonderful. It's been good to get you on the show. I'm sure we're going to have many conversations over the coming months just around different developments that are happening, but it's been good to get you on the show.
Definitely. I'd love to.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Look, if this episode's been of value to you, I want to encourage you just to reach out to Mulisa, have a chat with him just around what services he offers, what services are available, and just in off-market property sites in general. So thanks again for tuning in.